It's time to put yourself first and get the figure you've always wanted with laser liposuction and body sculpting from CMA, Comprehensive Medical Aesthetics. Dr. Rudolph Moise and his experienced staff can transform you in one simple in-office procedure. Localized anesthesia, minimal discomfort, faster recovery. Call CMA today and schedule your free consultation. 786-746-6464. Visit cmaesthetic.com. Begin your transformation. Call CMA today.
Is the attorney for the family.
Yeah, he and Natalie Jackson.
Him and Natalie Jackson, and we all know Natalie as a great advocate, and I'm hoping justice is served. Thank you for the question.
Incidentally, Eric DuBois, who is the criminal justice chair of the NAACP committee, he's also in law enforcement. And he's going to be calling for a town hall meeting with the police department, with the politicians, with the community, with the faith-based community. Would you please add your voice to calling for that effort?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I have to look at the specific, person and thing, but these conversations are very important. And this is part of the reason why it's so important to have good people in office. We have our state attorney right here who deals with this a lot and is attacked by our governor and is attacked by people in our own community for working to make sure that justice is actually equitable for everybody.
I just want to thank everybody, the panel and congressmen for coming out and doing this, because this is a well-needed conversation, right? So, I wanted to touch on something that first that Congressman Frost mentioned about AI, right? So I think we've seen this before in post-industrialism, where it decimated the communities of color, right? Populations, no word for that, right? And so what we're seeing that repeat in society right now, right? So it took out the communities back starting in the 70s, going up into the 90s, right? And if you look at that, it's going to happen again with AI. So is there anything that is being done to brace that because it is coming? But what I really wanted to ask about was the threat of colorblind racism, right? Colorblind racism is the biggest threat because that transcends, let's be real, right? It transcends all color lines. I hold conversations with white and black folks that think it's bootstrap ideology, right? And it's not. It's systemic inequality that marginalizes and oppresses people, right? But when people sit comfortably in privilege, it's a barrier for them to understand that racism actually has consequences, right? They don't see that. And last thing I want to say is this, is that, look, in this affirmative action targeting against college admission, it is the worst thing that's going to have the most negative impact. And I'll tell you why. Affirmative action really was never robust, and I agree with you, so the leagues need to do it again and make it more robust. But the thing that gets hidden is that it never really did anything for the underserved, marginalized community. It really had no improvements. But where did it have improvements? It had improvements for college educated. It was the path to advancing social position. So it brought people from poverty into the middle class. That is the most robust thing that affirmative action did, and it was inextricably bound to the education, getting them into college. So what's going to happen now, right? We already know that it doesn't do anything for the underserved, poverty-stricken, right? We also know this artery for higher education. Now we're cutting that artery out. So we can start making some predictions, right? This is some scary grounds that we're navigating. So where do we go from there, right? I don't know. It's scary. That's all I'm saying. We can have some solutions.
Yeah, and I'll pass it to Chair Wordsworth for the second part of the question. But as far as AI and technology is concerned, we know that this technology is created by people, which means inherently, and I actually did some work on this one over the ACLU, the technology itself tends to be racist. We actually see this right now on the border. The Department of Homeland Security recently adopted an app called CBP One. And so folks who people are looking for asylum at the border have to sign up on the app to then cross over. And we all know asylum is a human right that our country affords. Reports are coming in that if you are black, they're getting error messages, and it is confusing their pictures in the app with other people. And so they are literally not able to come in, and the app is the only way. And so there's a lot of problems here. Whether it's AI, I'm a bit skeptical of the use of biometrics with TSA right now. I'm concerned about there's not enough safeguards for private corporations to receive that data. There's a lot going on here. And again, I want to be clear. For folks who don't know, Orlando is quickly growing as one of the tech hubs of the entire country, especially when it comes to modeling and simulation. It's going to be transformational for Central Florida, and I think it's going to be a real local solution in helping to lift people out of poverty. And it's about the working class. The conversation I like to have is how do we help the working poor, which happen to make up most of our people. However, we were just having a conversation about the regulation of commercial space, commercial flight in the science committee. And one of the witnesses said something that I really loved. He said, oftentimes in these debates, we're led to believe that it's a very binary choice. You're either pro, regulating something until nothing can happen, or no regulation and let the market run free. And that's a false choice here. All things work together, right? And we have to ensure that we pass good legislation here, especially when we talk about AI and technology, because the technology is not colorblind, and this is very important. But I'll pass it to the chair to talk about further that.
Well, I just wanted to say, as a Congressional Black Caucus, what we're not going to do is let them frame the debate. We expect something more than affirmative action. Affirmative action for the admission of college students benefited a lot of communities. Black people weren't the beneficiaries only of affirmative action. White women benefited probably the most from affirmative action than any other group. So we need all communities to stand up and reject this ideologically driven, extreme position that this democracy is not for us. And I just want to frame this in my concluding remarks. Are you exhausted?
Yes.
Are you exhausted by the constant drama of the extremes trying to take over our democracy? Do you believe that this is for us too?
Yes.
That our schools, that the courts, that voting is for us? Then if it's for us, then we have to defend it, we have to protect it, and we have to hold it up to make it be what it's supposed to be for us. I want, as the chair of the Black Caucus, our members, we want economic prosperity, not just poverty. We want legacy building for our children and the next generation. We want to leave something to our children greater than what we had growing up in our generation. And we know that in this moment, our generation has a responsibility to uphold civil liberties, civil rights, fair housing, a woman's right to make her own healthcare decisions. These are fundamental things, but we understand that this is the time that we have to protect it. I say a lot, we're not going back. Are we going back?
No.
Are we going back to the 1950s?
No.
Are we going back before then? Are we going to be silenced?
No.
And that is why democracy for the people matters in this moment. For us to be informed, for us to engage, to make sure everyone's registered to vote, and that we participate in every cycle, in every election. so that not only do we get affirmative policies that address inequities in education, in healthcare, in the economy, in jobs, in housing, in justice, but we get the type of representation that we deserve in people like Congressman Maxwell Cross, who has a lived experience to make sure your voices, your concerns are heard in the halls of Congress. There are not a lot of people like us there. It's a tough job. It's a lot of sacrifice. But we're there because you put us there, and we understand the obligation that we have right now to uphold these ideals. So I just want to say thank you for allowing us to participate with you for this democracy for the people again. I know we have one last question, and we want to say appreciate you, Congressman, for making sure that we have this opportunity to be here in Orlando.
I'll try to keep it brief. I'm Tiffany Hughes, and I'm actually a CBCI grad, so thank you so much for being here. Little specific to Florida, but knowing that our governor is running for president, maybe not so specific to Florida these days. I had a really great conversation with a friend of mine around our current homeowners insurance crisis. Specifically around a business owner who has a farmer's insurance company, here. He runs the business here, and how his business has crumbled because Farmers is not writing policies here, right? You know, he has been in this community the last 20 years. And as a business owner myself, I worry about the economy and how we are messaging to businesses fleeing our state, and that not being economically positive, or targeting labor not being economically positive, or targeting immigrants not being economically positive. And I happened to be listening to My American Life earlier today, which is also a podcast, on the Florida experiment, how our governor is trying to expand what we're doing in Florida nationally. And so my question is, how is Congressman Cross, how are you? Congressman Halford, how is CBCI? And how can we as a community better speak to the economic woes of expanding Florida's experiment to a national experiment?
Thank you. And because, yeah, I'm going to say, what is the CBC? You can ask the questions that are relevant.
Hi. Good evening, and thank you, Congressman. My name is Tiffany Hughes, and I'm 17. I've been scared to live in this country, particularly this state, since I was a little girl and first heard about the Pulse and the Parkland shootings, the unjustified killings of Black Americans, hands of police, and other issues that have gone both publicized and unpublicized. Despite that, or maybe because of that, I would be attending George's Ball with an intended double major in government. I think it's hard for a lot of young people, or me at least, to find it hard to know where to start in getting engaged in politics. Here, my university, or Capitol Hill. And my question to both of you is, what advice do you have for young people wanting to fight for democracy, equality, and social justice in this country? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have one more.
Really quickly, my name is Heather Kirchhoff, and I am the president of the Florida Democratic Haitian Caucus. Since we're talking about the issue of gun violence, Haiti, the president was assassinated on January 2021. Haiti has not had a gun issue ever since 219 years. The United States Department of Homeland Security came out with a security report saying the guns that are now in Haiti is on the verge of becoming Somalia. It's coming from Florida. So I wanted to know, will the CBC be addressing that and making sure there's an investigation for the illegal arms trades, because Haiti will not become another Sudan. Last question, as a descendant of African and a Black woman, living in Orlando, there's a study, I don't know what it is, in 2053, which is 30 years from now, the Black wealth gap is going to be zero. How do we address the funds that are coming from the federal government into the states not earmarked, because no one wants to say Black, especially in our wonderful city of Orlando. Black contractors and Black small businesses don't have equal opportunity access to capital. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I just want to thank everyone for coming. We're going to hit the questions quickly here. We do have to wrap up. But again, I appreciate you for being here. I'm going to give the chair the last question. First, who is the 70? Oh, hey, I'll answer your question first. As far as young people getting involved in this process, I think we've seen a revolution over the last several years of young people lifting up their voices in ways we've never seen. We saw the Parkland shooting happen, and the March for Lives movement really changed the country. When Trayvon Martin was murdered, young black and brown organizers with the Tallahassee, the Dream Defenders. And I think there's a space for us in movement, in electoral politics, in mutual aid, in protests, and I think we need to step into our power there. I think part of the problem is that there are people who don't want young folks to be heard at the table because naturally younger generations are seeing the world through the eyes of our most vulnerable people and want policies that help everyone. We reject this politics of scarcity where if I'm getting something, it must mean you're losing something, and we're accepting a politics of abundance. And that's an existential threat to the powers that want to keep people down to continue to line their pockets, whether it's big corporate greed or billionaires or et cetera. And so I think stepping our power is very important, and congratulations, I went to Georgetown, just stopped by our office.
I already did.
You already did there? So definitely get involved on campus. I think organizing on a campus is such a unique privilege that you're only gonna get for a certain amount of time in your life. And so I always tell people, whether you're in high school or middle school or college, organize in this microcosm of society that you're going to live in, because it's an ever fleeting opportunity. And as an organizer, I'm always like, damn, I wish we were always in school. It'd be so easy to get people to rallies and stuff. I see people every day. And as you exit that and you go into, working and et cetera, the organizing takes a different form. And so I think schools provide such a great opportunity to organize people and definitely be involved in that on campus. I'm going to let the chair talk about the federal government economy, especially Black Americans. I'll just touch on the insurance. Our governor, a few days ago, after farmers pulled out, was being asked, hurricane season's coming up. Hurricane season's coming up. What's the plan? You know what he said? He said, knock on wood, there's not a hurricane. That is what our governor said. Knock on wood that there's not a hurricane. That is his plan. So I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. This isn't even me bashing because I disagree with everything he says. That is not leadership. We need someone who's unafraid to pick up the phone, call the meetings, speak with the insurance companies, get the legislature on board. I mean, he pulls their strings anyway, works with local government and fixes this problem before hurricane season, when people will be utilizing their homeowners insurance the most. And we saw just last year, and this is why all things are connected, because of the climate crisis and the way that we are not doing enough to combat it, hurricanes are getting worse. We saw what happened with Hurricane Ian. Hurricanes are lasting longer, they're destroying more. Fort Myers Beach was decimated. So this is a broader conversation. Unfortunately, we don't have the leadership at the top. I'm going to pass it to the chair to close.
The last two questions on the implementation of the federal funding. So the Congressional Black Caucus meets with the White House. We meet with every federal agency. And we have Secretary Buttigieg in. We'll have John Podesta in next week, and then Secretary Cardona. And it's all around the equitable implementation of funding. Yes, we know you guys have a difficult issue here in Florida, but I just want you to know you have a very strong delegation in Maxwell Frost and the other members who represent you, and they're not alone. When they raise issues, we back them up. And as I said, the Black Caucus is the largest. We are more than a third of the House Democratic Caucus. We get our issues heard. We were just in Trinidad for the 50th anniversary of the CARICOM. We met with all the heads of state of the Caribbean nations, and they raised the issue of the gun trafficking into the Caribbean nations, including Haiti, and indicated there's now research that it's mostly coming from places like Florida and New York. And so we are working with federal agencies. We actually have a meeting next week with USAID to discuss support specifically for Haiti. And again, the Congressional Black Caucus, we represent the Black diaspora in Africa, in the Caribbean, and yes, right here in the United States. So that's why having a champion like Maxwell Frost, he's not just a member, he's also on the executive board. I asked him to be an at-large member. So he's in leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus. He sits at the table to make, and the Haitian task force, yes. He sits at the table to make sure that your community's needs are heard. And as a young member, he provides so much insight for us in how we can better reach young people here and all over the country. And because of that, we have one objective, and that's to win. Not to win the next election, as important as that is, but to win for our people. Every day, every week, every month. And so that is how we defend our democracy. Democracy
For the people!
Democracy!
For the people!
Democracy!
For the people!
Thank you for coming out tonight.